All right, so what I did was got it lined out where I want some holes to go. And I guess there's a variety of ways I could do this. I thought about maybe originally, drilling a bunch of holes and then chiseling them out. I just don't want to do it this time. I think what I'm going to do is just use my favorite tool in the shop. This is my old Craftsman scroll saw I picked up off of Facebook Marketplace and fixed up. Got it back operational. While it is definitely my favorite tool, just because, I mean, how cool is it? It doesn't have any of those newfangled features like quick releases and blowers and the like. So I gotta make do with those things. But let's just go ahead and cut these things out and get this project going. All right, so there we go. I'm going to go clean them up with my file, some sandpaper, and then go and cut the mating pieces. All right, so I didn't bother filming it because it was more of the same, but I got these, I guess they're technically tenons, and these mortises cut here, and now it's time to get them to fit. So they don't fit perfectly. They're not too far off, but they need a little bit of persuasion to get in there. So what I've used in the past has been a combination of sandpaper, things like that. And I got these files off of, I think I got them off of Amazon or somewhere a while ago. I think they're technically from metal, I don't know, but they're pretty small and they're pretty fine, and they allow me to get into some really small spaces and really kind of shave the wood down. Might even get my chisels out if I need to. But yeah, these things work pretty well. They don't take a lot of material off, but they allow me just to kind of really work with a variety of shapes. Like this one's more square, this one's more triangular. It's good for getting into corners and whatnot. I'm just gonna kind of sit here and do that for a little bit. Probably will wind up speeding this part of the video up because I don't think anybody wants to watch that any more than I want to do it, but necessary evil, right? So let's go. All right, so I think we have success. That's what we're looking for right there. Now, I still need to refine it. Obviously, that's a little bit too tight. The idea is that my friend can take it apart, put it in her purse, take it to work, put it back at home or whatever. So I need it to be able to come apart a little bit easier than that. And some of my stuff still needs to be trimmed. I've got some gaps here on the back that I need to work on as well. So some more refining, but getting there. All right, so I think that looks pretty good. Fits pretty well. I've got a little bit of a gap back here, but that's also because this wood is just a smidge on the warped side. Yeah, another mistake I made there, but I'm okay with it. It looks pretty good. I don't think anybody will pay as much attention to the slight gap on the back side of this thing as I am, and it ultimately looks pretty good. But I think what I'm going to do is I need to put a hole in here for the cable to go. So obviously the phone's going to sit here. And so I want to have that with a hole here for the cord to come out the back and then go to, her computer or wherever for charging purposes. I think what I'm going to do is get a drill bit and drill a small hole where I want this to go. And then I'm going to go take it over to my drill press and drill a hole out using a Forstner bit. So let's go do that. What do you say? So I don't really have any plans for all of this. Probably should, but I don't. So I'm just gonna kind of doing this by eye, kind of what looks good, I suppose, finding the middles of various lines aesthetically speaking, and just figuring out what intersects, what might look good. At some point, probably, we'll have to go about making some actual designs and plans and SketchUp or something like that, but it is kind of fun to do this on the fly. So let's get that pilot hole drilled and go from there. So I've used this Forstner bit a lot actually, and it's not the highest quality bit. It's what I could afford. It's what I've got, so it's better than what I don't. And so of course these things tend to blow out on the back side of things, and this orange Osage I've discovered so far is pretty fragile that way. I've had a little bit of issue with tear out. So my idea behind the pilot hole was to give me some place that I can drill just a little bit in this way and then flip it over and go in a little bit that way. I've never quite done this before, but I've seen it done on thicker pieces. This is, you know, a 1/4 of an inch thick maybe. So I don't know if it's gonna work, but I figure worst case scenario is it's what I would have gotten otherwise. So maybe it'll work. Let's see. Well, what do you know? It worked. So, no tear out. The hole is a little bit uneven there. I'm not even sure if you can see it on the camera, but I guess I didn't quite come in precisely the same direction on both sides. But I can sand that down. I don't think anybody will notice it. I think it looks pretty good. So let's go back to the table. All right, so back at the table. On the way back, I went and trimmed a little piece of this off just to kind of get a little bit shorter, a little bit slimmer feeling. I think I like it a little bit better now. So I think what I'm going to do, because I like putting little details on things and also like making my life harder, of course, I'm going to try to put a really fine chamfer on this hole just to make it look and feel a little bit nicer, make it a little bit easier to slide a cable through from either direction. So I've got my router here. I think what I'm going to do is just try to get just the barest little bit of this bit showing. Don't want much because I don't really have much wood here anyway. Just enough to nip away. You know what? Yeah. I don't think I'm going to be able to do it with the bearing. Maybe. You know what? I guess we're going to see what happens. Maybe this will be another mistake. Guess we'll find out. You know what? I think I got some scraps around here. Maybe I can test this out on, see how it works. We'll see. So this is a cutoff. This sapwood stuff, I'm not really a big fan of what it looks like. Don't really have any ideas for it. So I'm going to try to just see if the roller bearing on this thing here will ride along the wood and still provide any kind of cut on the edge, because it's pretty thin. So I'm not going to do anything major. I'm just going to try to run it along and see what happens. So here goes nothing. So I don't know if it's going to come through, but it did exactly what I wanted. Just a tiniest little nip taken off, rounds the edge over, gives the kind of a neat little look. So let's go do it. So yeah, it's not too bad. Nice little rounded over. I'm gonna go sand some of that stuff off, but I think that'll work for me. Next step is I'm going to embellish this with the first letter of my friend's name here on the side, or on the back, using my scroll saw. And I've got a couple different size templates. So I'm gonna see which one of these fits the best, cut it out, glue it on here. I don't think anybody's gonna be too wowed by that. So I'll be back in a second. All right, so let me just kind of show you what I did here. Off camera, I found the distance. So basically I found the size of the letter here and found the distance that was basically equidistant from this part here, the table, if you will, the kind of the visual line here, and of course the top. And that was like 2¼ inches, something like that. And then I also found the center line here, found the center line of my letter, and lined it all up, drew some lines so I knew where to put this. So my next step is to get this template onto the wood. What I have used so far has been this Elmer's spray adhesive. It's light duty or medium duty or something like that, multi-purpose. And all I do is I just kind of spray it onto the piece. Stick it like that. Make sure you clear the nozzle, because I don't think I'm going to show that in video, but that's been a mistake too. Trying to come back later and use it with stuck adhesive in the nozzle. Yes, no bueno. Let me get that pilot hole drilled. Let me go take this over to Old Beauty over there and get to cutting, or get to scrolling, I guess, really, right? All right, so pretty happy with how that came out. It is not perfect, but it is far from bad. So what I'm going to do is keep the template on so that I can see maybe where I didn't quite hit the black lines. I tried to cut all the black out, but I know there was a few spots where the blade just kind of came off course a little bit, and I couldn't quite get it on without making a mistake. So let me go back to my needle file set and just kind of clean up some of these edges. And yeah, kind of sucks, but again, necessary evil. So let's just do it, get it done with, and move on to the fun stuff. So here we go. All right, so now see, I'm going to get this template off. What I normally do is get some good old-fashioned mineral spirits, just a blue shop cloth, and kind of get it good and wet, and then just kind of wipe down whatever glue oversprayed, but definitely wipe down the template itself. And I find that kind of lets the mineral spirits soak through and eat up at the glue a little bit, which is what I want. This cheap plastic putty knife I got is really useful for scraping stuff up without jacking up your material. And so you can see it comes up right off. There you go. So go back over it with a little bit more mineral spirits, clean up whatever was underneath the paper. Cool thing about this is it also kind of gives me a teaser of what this is going to look like with finish. Not 100%, but give me a pretty good idea. This stuff is, I guess, oxidized or whatever. I bought it, like I said, over a year ago. And when I brought it home, and it was bright red. It was gorgeous, and it still is, but it's definitely gotten a bit more of a, I guess, a burnt orange color to it over the year of just sitting up on my shelf since I brought it back. I still like it. It's just not quite as eye-popping as it was. I made another one of these about a year ago for my mother-in-law for Mother's Day. If I've got a picture of it, I'll probably put it there somewhere. And you can see in that one, it comes out a bit more red than this one is. So this one's gorgeous, but it's a bit more on the brownish orangish side, you know, about a year on. So, all right, well, I'm gonna let the mineral spirits dry. That'll give me an idea if I missed any spots with the glue, with the adhesive, and I'll go back over it again if I need to. It's usually good with the first go round, but I like to let it dry and just make sure that I didn't miss something, because once you start applying finish, which will be pretty much the next step, I'm just gonna go over it a little bit with some light sandpaper, probably 120 and then some 180, and probably call that a day. And this one, you know, ease the edges, make it comfortable to touch, hold, and then we will get this thing off to my friend. So now I think we're getting to the part of a project that every guy likes the best, and that is putting finish on the project. I think for me, I like it because, you know, wood looks, in my opinion, pretty cool, even in the raw form. But once you put finish on a couple times, you know there's something amazing hiding beneath. And you almost never really see it until you actually put the finish on. Of course, it also illuminates any mistakes you might have made if you got some swirls in the sanding or some scuffs against the grain that you didn't quite clean out. It's sort of the ultimate truth teller, both for good and bad. Of course, selecting the finish is always the challenge. And I guess there's probably no right or wrong way. I don't have a ton of time. I don't want to put like a super fancy, you know, polyurethane on. So I think I'm just going to do what I did the last time I made this and put classic boiled linseed oil on there. It's simple and easy to apply. It dries quickly, and it feels nice and silky, assuming I sanded the wood down. I did take it down to 220 as opposed to 180, like I said before I cut the camera off. Let's go ahead and start doing that, and let's see what nature has in store for us here. In other news, has anybody ever figured out a good reason why opening is always right in the middle of the bottle? I mean, it is impossible to pour this without it getting everywhere, but hey, that's just me. What I'm thinking is if I just kind of scoot it around towards the edge, it'll get into these cuts. It's not too bad. If I've got a lot of excess oil on the rag, I can actually just kind of squeeze the rag out at the edge, and it'll kind of ooze out a little bit and get into these openings. I don't know that there's necessarily a right way to do this, but in other news, you can probably hear my dog upstairs. Knowing her, some other dog had the gall to exist and be in her line of sight, and so therefore needs to be destroyed. I think we're pretty good. Yeah. I don't think it's going to come through on camera, but hey. And I like the color. Like I said, it's taken more of a burnt orange. About a year or so ago, this stuff was more of a bright red. And now it's more of a burnt orange color. So I'm going to let this stuff set, soak in, come back, wipe it off, apply a little bit more. Maybe another one, depending on how much this stuff wants to soak up. For you safety fans out there, I know this stuff is potentially combustible. I've never had it happen to me, and it seems like it's a pretty rare occurrence that it happens to anybody, but I know it's physically possible. So what I do is just open them up so that they can't, what's it called? Is it endothermic, exothermic? Anyway, it generates heat so that dissipates. And I just set it on the concrete floor of my basement here, and that's worked out pretty well for me for the last couple of years. So I'm gonna go set this aside, let this do its deal, come back and reapply as needed, and I'll come back and show you when it's done. All right, so it is done. Put a couple coats, I think like 2, and touched up wherever I thought it needed it, of boiled linseed oil. I love this stuff. It just kind of gives us this nice sheen. It still feels like wood though. And more, I guess just as importantly for the person I'm giving it to, if they ever need to update it, there's not going to be anything fancy to scrape or sand or prep or anything. They can go put as much on as they want, as long as they obviously take the safety precautions with the rag. So anyway, once I do this, stick it together. It just goes together real nicely. That's it. So I trimmed down the back just a little bit to get a little bit of a steeper angle. I thought it looked and felt a little bit better that way. And so there we go. Thanks for watching. Hope you had some fun. I know I did. It was a fun little project here. Pretty simple. Hopefully you had fun watching along the way, laughing, cringing, mocking, whatever. And I guess that's it for this time. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.